we'll pass it on to Sylvain for the next presentation about Mosaic. We're gonna mute everyone now except for Sylvain. Are you ready?
All right.
Hey.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see your screen in a strange way, but we see it.
Strange way?
No, it's just smaller than other people. It's all right.
Okay, let me try something else. To get the full experience, you know?
Yes.
Okay, let's try this again. Screen. Can you see this now?
Yes, that's better.
Is it better? Okay, cool. So thank you very much for having me and offering the opportunity to present our solution at Mozaic. What we do first is we empower organizations with more accessible, affordable, and auditable nature data. And we focus specifically on the ground truth. So a lot of great innovation have gone into remote sensing tools, looking at Earth from above. But with some of the market demands coming through regulations, voluntary markets, and those organizations trying to better understand their supply chain risk, we need more granular site-level nature data. And at Mozaic, we're building the infrastructure to connect the market demand to affordable site-level data. And as a starting point, we're activating the global community network and smartphone network to collect and build data sets of ground level imageries that can be interpreted for habitat condition, vegetation analysis, invasive species, and then aggregated with data sets like the ones that Jeff produces to build an integrated biodiversity baselines for the organizations that we work with. So Mozaic at a very high level, we are, as I mentioned, we're building a AI-powered, community-driven ground truthing platform. And so that means combining technology innovation with community engagements to reduce the cost of access to site-level nature data. We work mostly today in the UK and Europe, but we're starting to internationalize and doing more and more projects. So first in Indonesia at the moment, and we're going to expand to Africa in the second half of the year. We work with natural capital funds and investors that acquire like large pieces of land and want to baseline the state of nature in a way that is certifiable and auditable before any pre-interventions. We work with corporates trying to understand and report better site-level data in conjunction with openly available data like ENCORE for CSRD reporting. But we also work with ecology consultancies that are trying to scale their impact and collaborate with their own clients on doing environmental impact assessments in a more efficient way. We've got about 40,000 hectares today under monitoring, and we really have like we believe like a world-class, passionate team to support the organizations that we work with. But also, and this is a little bit where the Mozaic name comes from, we believe that it takes an entire ecosystem to address the nature crisis. And so we depend and we collaborate with a number of partners to deliver the solutions, the best solutions for customers and clients. I think most of the people on this call would be aware with some of the pressures that are and opportunities from the markets. What we're seeing from our clients that it really like comes from three big buckets. We work with organizations that are trying to better manage their nature-related risk and impact. We work with organizations that are trying to comply with some of the emerging regulations, and that's driven a lot of work for us in the UK with Biodiversity Net Gain, where we're applying our solutions for habitat condition monitoring. We work also with organizations that are trying to future-proof their land holdings and investments and capture better data that they may be able to monetize in terms of restoration work in the future. But the problem today is accessing the ground truth, the site level nature data that we need is really hard to scale. These largely depends today on sending skilled ecologists into the field to do manual surveys, which Jeff touched upon. And we are facing a capacity crisis. There is not enough ecologists today in the market to support the increasing demand. And so as a result, the quality of the surveys and the cost of the surveys are continuously increasing. So this is what at Mozaik we're solving for. And so the platform that we've built really is empowering people that are already working or living near ecosystems of interest to capture site level data using the sensors that are already in everyone's pockets as a starting point, which are their smartphones. And then we use the latest computer vision models to extract from those ground level imageries the features in the landscapes that can help ecologists remotely interpret the conditions of habitats and ecosystems or establish species list in terms of vegetation. And then we aggregate that data with some of our partners' data to then provide the organizations that we work with a holistic view on the biodiversity baseline and then continuous monitoring of the sites. And what we've seen is that that drives a big cost reduction, because just the fact that you can empower the people on the ground and decouple the data collection from the data interpretation saves a lot of logistical time. Almost more than 50% of the time of an ecologist on a project is spent on non-productive activities of going to sites and then on sites moving from one location of interest to the other. And so by enabling them to entirely focus on their time on 100% valuable activities, we save a lot of time in the process and enable large cost reductions. And because they are not doing their job and their work and interpretation in a digital environment, we're able in the background to start training models that over time will help them accelerate further the interpretation and the validation work. And at some point when the models are accurate enough, which they're starting to be for certain indicators and certain metrics, the role of the ecologist then becomes of a verifier of what the models are producing rather than a direct interpreter. But I think today, in this market where transparency and trust is so important, it's still very valuable to have a certified expert in the loop to validate the data and the interpretation. And even on the right-hand side, when it comes to the insights we're producing, we're working with partner ecologists to help all clients and organizations interpret what it means. Like, it's good to have a good data sets and some information around biodiversity, but there's a big gap in terms of ecological expertise from the people that are doing the interpretation to the people that need it to make better decisions. And so we help that education and translation. I always find it quite useful in this big landscape of nature tech to position a little bit where we are from a Mozaik standpoint and where our core expertise is. And I like to think about the nature tech landscape in a very simple 2x2. If you think about scope, there is habitats, ecosystem, structural assessments. There's the whole flora aspect, plant diversity, trees, and then there's the fauna aspect on the right-hand side. And then in terms of layering, it's about looking at what happens below soil, what happens between the topsoil and below the canopy, and then all of the landscape scale analysis above canopy. And so really where Mozaik focuses is a little bit more on the left-hand side, above soil, and we fuse the ground truth to see what happens below the canopy with remote sensing extrapolations to get holistic analysis. And then we've become really, really good at identifying awesome partners to work with to fill the gaps and understand where we need and when we need it, the fun aspect that comes with it. And that is also very important, as Jeff mentioned. And so today we've got really like 4 key case studies, and I'll show you like one of them or a mix of them. We do habitat classification and condition assessments, very much focused on the market of biodiversity net gain, but we're also working using frameworks like the Ramble Global Biodiversity Metric to apply those ecosystem condition assessments worldwide. And that's going to be critical if some of you are part of the State of Nature Metric Initiative by Nature Positive Initiative that is trying to bring a standard on how we measure the state of nature within supply chains. The ecosystem condition metric is essential. So we're going to be using some of those learnings in the UK to apply it internationally. We do forest biomass assessments as well. We've got a pretty neat way to estimate above ground biomass in forest and woodland just off a few photos with a bit of like computer vision and some interesting scientific approach. Plant diversity quantification. And then we also act as an aggregator, collaborating with Replanet as one of the partners and custodians of the Wallacea Trust methodology to provide an integrated biodiversity baseline that can be third-party certified and that can be used to apply for get more funding as co-benefit for carbon credits, or that can be used maybe in the future to generate separate biodiversity credits if the market goes that direction. Very quickly how it works, and you'll see it in the demo. It always starts with what are we trying to measure and the site boundaries. Then, very important step, we set up what we call like a sampling strategy that really is informed by what we're trying to achieve so that we can minimize the amount of ground truthing and effort of the data collection side, but maximize the amount of insights that we get. And then all of this is converted in a super intuitive way for local data collector to collect the information that we need in the mobile application. That is intuitive, so it requires like no prior training. And second, that removes as much as possible the observer bias. So that the data that we collect can be used as trustworthy data for making claims, for participating in markets. And then an ecologist, remotely, we work with a pool of ecologists are doing the interpretation of the data in a web-based environment, and then we're doing the reporting. Before I'll jump into the demo, before it gets too late, I'll first start with a quick recording, but it's easier to explain the beginning of the process, and then I'll jump into the actual platform. So on everything, as I mentioned, starts with a sampling strategy. And we'll generally inform the sampling strategy by different types of information. We generally stratified on the basis of a broad habitat classification that will inform us in terms of what is the density of ground truthing that we need, and what is the type of information that we need at each one of those geolocations. And we've got now learnings from having deployed it in a number of different sites, and rule models are optimizing for what is the right amount of ground truthing. And then this generally happens in the back end, but I like to show it a little bit, is we take that complex sampling strategy and it converts it into a set of simple missions for the on-site data collector. And we can set all kinds of very easy parameters for the data collection and data collectors. And importantly, at the moment, we do projects where we bring the data collectors they're within controlled environments. So we add data collectors by email. We call what we call closed projects, but we're starting to work with some of our partners on doing open projects. So we can select a site, and then anyone with a QR code in the Mozaik app can come and contribute to the data collection. And in some of our projects in lower income regions, we do micropayments for participation in the data collection process. So we're starting to play with some creative incentive models that are adjusted for the local conditions. And then that goes into the mobile application. So I'll show you the mobile application in a couple of different ways. but it's been built to be like really intuitive and use some gamification principle. So you'll receive like a mission briefing, a pre-flight checklist that make a couple of checks on what you have to do. And then it's all about geolocating yourself and getting to the right location where information is requested. And this is why it's important, like the sampling strategy really informs in a robust way what data we need and removes the observer bias from the data collector that just has to be in the right place at the right time and then follow the instruction to capture the images that we need for the ecologist and the specialist to make an assessment. So in that case, that's an example for a very simple vegetation diversity assessment. That's one of many camera-based tasks that we've built into the mobile application that directs the data collector to collect exactly what we need in a consistent way, time over time. And then they complete that particular task, move to the next step. Another example in context. So this is one of our local community members on a project in Romania. And you would see that the app here works in any language. So it automatically detects the location of the user and translate everything. And in that case, she would be geolocating herself. And here what you see is another type of camera-based task that is linked to your compass, linked to your inclination sensor. And so we can direct the data collector exactly in the right direction, exactly in the right inclination to capture the information that we need, again, consistently over time. And all of this information can be checked. So if there is doubt that the data collector was in the right place or doing the right thing, we can exclude those data points so that we ensure that there is trust. Okay, so for the rest, I'll jump into the actual platform, so it's a bit easier to demo. And of course, I got logbooks.
Got 1 more minute, just so you know.
1 more minute.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, we're back. And so this is the environment where in 1 minute, the ecologist will do their assessments. So they will see like the site that needs to be monitored, and they'll be able to teleport themselves on site to check all of the data and do their interpretation. So they will see the images that have been collected by the data collectors on site. And here they've got a whole set of tools to directly label the images in the Mozaik platform to provide the transparency, but also training data for us in the background to build better models with all the species listings. So we've got species labels for them to use. We've got custom labels, etc., etc. The platform is also linked to a certain number of like standard survey forms. So in that case, the biodiversity net gain DEFRA habitat condition assessments, the global biodiversity metrics from Rainbow for international projects, and we can add any forms for them to complete. And then that information is then aggregated into a report with some of our partner data. And this is where we try to really bring some of the key insights that have been collected on site. So when we're working with a partner at Replanet, we calculate the Wallacea index, so the biodiversity index, across a number of metrics from habitat, plants, breeding birds, pollinators, detritivores, with visibility on then some of the key insights. So when it comes to habitats, obviously we'll look at the condition of habitats, percentage good, moderate, poor, the number of biodiversity units that it can generate in the UK. When you're looking at plants, we're looking at richness and abundance of plant species across following again like our sampling strategy. When we're looking at birds, we're looking at richness and some of the endangered species. So we would work with organizations like Water Sensing to pull that data in, pollinators, detritivores, etc. And then some of the key actions that can be taken by organizations we work with on the basis of the baseline data that we collect. I'll stop here and answer.
Thank you so much, Sylvain. It's beautiful to see that you're all calling back to each other. Stephanie, your turn.